as you may know, the Academy Awards are just around the corner. And if you are an animation fan, then I know for a fact that you are going to be paying very close attention to the category of Best Animated Feature. The moment that you're going to find out who is going to win between Zootopia, Kubo and the Two Strings, Moana, The Red Turtle, and My Life as a Zucchini, on top of paying attention also to some of the other categories that surprisingly animation has decided to put a few prints onto, including Best Original Song, where Moana and Trolls can be found, and also Best Visual Effects, where surprisingly Kubo and the Two Strings became the second ever animated or fully animated feature to be nominated in that category. But there is one in particular that unfortunately a lot of people decided to overlook. They didn't necessarily care much about it. And I'm talking, of course, about the Best Animated Shorts category. Now, I'm not saying that anybody who watches the Oscars should pay attention onto all the categories and know what they should be about. Because, admittedly, even myself, I am guilty of not even knowing many of the other movies that are nominated. I don't really know much about any of the movies in Best Foreign Flicks or Best Documentary, with the exception of Life Animated, or Best Documentary Short, or Best Live Action Short, or any of those things. But I feel like, as someone who is a fan of animation, I want to do myself a favor and try to increase my knowledge about knowing what these Best Animated Short projects are. Not just root for the one that I've seen in front of a Disney movie and just go from there. No. Now, I've already made myself a pledge a while back that I would watch, all the things that are nominated in terms of the Oscars that are, all the things animated that are nominated at the Oscars. Now, whether it be before or after, I would go and check them out. And so far, I've been doing very well, I have to say. And the thing is that with this one, in terms of Best Animated Shorts category, now chances are maybe it's a little bit too late to do any sort of research and stuff like that. And I know that not many people would be able to go and check out all of the shorts that are actually nominated. So I decided, why not actually go and create something that could be like the next best thing to actually watching these shorts. Give you guys as much information as I can about these shorts individually, so you would know what these shorts are and why is it that they won, and maybe pique your interest to go and check them out for yourselves maybe. So I decided to go and develop something that I would like to call AniMat's Guide to the Animated Shorts that are nominated at the Academy Awards. Or something like that, somewhere around that line, but you get what I mean. So what I'm going to do for you guys is that I am going to be looking at each of the animated shorts and try to give you a little bit of a description of what they are and maybe a little bit of my thoughts on each of these shorts individually. I actually managed to watch them myself. I actually got the opportunity to go and actually get on iTunes. There's a little thing that you can actually go and buy the you can pretty much go and buy all of the Best Animated Shorts category and just watch them one by one, on top of the ones that didn't necessarily get nominated but were on the shortlist. So with all that said, let me start things off with the first one, called Blind Vaya, which if you don't know, Blind Vaya is directed by Fyodor Ushev, sorry about that, Fyodor Ushev, and it is actually created at the National Film Board of Canada. Now, usually, believe it or not, National Film Board of Canada is actually a very strong powerhouse in the Best Animated Shorts category at the Oscars, debatably even more than Disney, believe it or not. And what this is the story about Blind Vaya is that you got this girl, and she's not necessarily blind, but the way that she sees the world is entirely different. Where in one eye, she can only see what was the past, and on the other eye, she can only see the future. Now, how this works is that, let's say blind Vaisha would look at me. She cannot see me for who I am now. She can only see me where in one eye, she sees me as this 9-year-old, where on the other eye, she sees me as this old man. And throughout the whole thing, it's mostly people trying to cooperate with it, how Vaisha tries to cooperate with it, and it's not really working well, and she can't really get in touch with reality, until at the end, where it decides to go and give the audience a big moral, pretty much trying to say, if you were Vaisha, which eye do you want to see from? Do you only want to see the past, or do you want to only see the future? And that's pretty much the big ultimatum that this animated short decided to go and bring out. Now, the one thing I will say about Blind Vaisha is that among all the ones, all the animated shorts here, this is probably the one I would have to say that it is the most artistic. The one where the story that it's trying to say is executed in a way that's just being a classical story, where you have like a narrator and it ends in a moral and all that kind of stuff. But also in terms of the art style, it definitely is very unique, where it's trying to mix animation with something that I like to call, well, not I like to call, but something that's called lino cut. And if you don't know what lino cut is basically a combination of printing and carving. I've done some lino cuts myself. It's not as fun. It's a really, really tricky technique. Like, if you're able to master that, then my God, you are an amazing artist. But yeah, like, if you want some examples of lino cuts, just go and look it up. Now, of course, Ushev didn't necessarily actually use like traditional lino cut techniques to go and create the animation. That's not the case. What he did is mostly using modern technology like a Cynic tablet in order to execute the lino cut style. And yeah, like in terms of and like I said before, it definitely is the most artistic and definitely the most unique short that we have over here, on top with giving its audience a massive thinking piece about how would you wish to perceive the world if you're unable to see how the world is today. Now, the interesting thing is that Blind Vaisha has already gathered some awards for itself. This has already it already received the Cartoon Network Award for Best Narrative Short Animation, and also the Canadian Film Institute Award for Best Canadian Animation at the Ottawa International Animation Festival. The film was also included in the list of Canada's top 10 shorts of 2016, selected by a panel of filmmakers and industry professionals, organized by the Toronto International Film Festival, which, by the way, I'm reading all this through Wikipedia, and don't worry, they are sourced, so it is pretty legit. So yeah, that's the information that you need to know about Blind Vaisha. It's the more artistic one. And then we got Borrowed Time. Now, Borrowed Time is actually something that I've already talked about here in the animation podcast, but luckily now it actually did get a nomination, so allow me to explain to you a bit more about what Borrowed Time is. Now, apparently we're going back to the Old West, and you have this sheriff who decided to go back to this mountain cliff where he was there a long time ago with his dad, but apparently, like, we actually see some flashbacks from this sheriff when he was a kid, just hanging out with his dad, and they were just riding along, and at one point there were some thieves or some bad guys that were trying to shoot him, and apparently the horses or pretty much the sheriff didn't necessarily see the cliff, so he pretty much fell off, and his dad, like, he fell off the cliff, but he's pretty much hanging on to dear life. And, well, if I continue, then that would be spoiler territory. But what is actually very interesting about Borrowed Time is that I have to say, this is a legit Pixar quality animated short directed, and by the way, this is directed by Andrew Coates and Lou Hamu Lihaj. And yeah, like I said, this is an absolute Pixar quality animated short. And I'm not saying that because this is my opinion. I'm actually saying that because this is legitimately made at Pixar. This was apparently the first ever animated project done from the Pixar Co-op program, which pretty much allows their Pixar animators to go and produce their own independent films, which all the time they would go and create the they would go and create live action shorts, but these guys decided to go a step further and create an actual animated short with Pixar's technology. And they spent like 5 years producing this from 2010 and 2015, and throughout the time they would get help from other Pixar animators and producers and all that kind of stuff to go and create it. In fact, let me just read a little bit, saying that the directors worked on the film in their spare time while remaining full-time at Pixar and contributing to projects such as Inside Out, Brave, The Good Dinosaur, and WALL-E, along with other shorts including Day and Night, the Toy Story shorts, the Toy Story TV specials, and Partly Cloudy. And yeah, like, honestly, just looking at this, it's probably the one, for me personally, I am rooting for the most to actually win here, because where Blind Vaisha is the most artistic, this is probably the one where I find myself to be the most emotionally invested. Not only that it looks absolutely phenomenal with the way that they're actually using Pixar's technology to go and create this amazing animated short, but even through concept alone, it is actually, like, you get really invested into it. A lot of action and really just a lot of heartbreaking moments. Like, this is something that you guys absolutely have to go check out. In fact, if you go on Vimeo, you can actually go and watch this short for free. So at least you can have that. So yeah, that's the little information that I can gather up for you guys for Borrowed Time. And now let's move on to the longest animated short that we have over here, which is called Pear, Cider, and Cigarettes. Unlike the other animated shorts that are just between 6 to 8 minutes long, Pear, Cider, and Cigarettes is like 35 minutes long. And apparently, it says right here that it's apparently a Canadian animated short documentary, which I'm not 100% sure if that is actually, like, based on a true story or something like that. Hold on, let me actually double check on something. I could definitely do agree that the way that it's done, it's a little bit like a documentary, but rather the fact, if it's actually a true story, that would honestly really surprise me. Oh, no, wait. Never mind. Okay, maybe not. Oh, or is it, no, actually, no, it's not. It's not. Never mind. I'm looking more into Animation World Network, and all it's saying is that although first written as a graphic novel, Pear, Cider, and Cigarettes was always intended to be a film. Which, it's just the way that it's described. Like, it's described as a documentary that happens to be animated, where, or no, wait a minute. Wait. Actually, no, it is a true story. Holy crap, it's a true story! Whoa! Oh, crap. Whoa, dude! Okay! Sweet, merciful Neptune. Okay, that I did not expect. Wow. Okay, so it is a true story. Okay, so yeah, it is a animated documentary, almost in the same veins as Waltz with Bashir. Alright. But anyways, I'm getting a little bit too ahead of myself. Before I go on, let me describe to you a little bit of what this documentary is about. So, Pear, Cider, and Cigarettes is the story of a guy named Techno Stipes. And Techno Stipes, he's more of a rebel. Like, we look into his life and, like, ever since he was a kid, he's always been causing a lot of trouble, just living on the edge and just going to the extreme and stuff like that. You know, like more of a daredevil, always want to go and pick fights, you know, always finds a way to go sleep with women and all that kind of crazy stuff. But when you do these stupid things, stupid consequences would go and occur. And he would end up screwing his body so much to the point that he really destroyed his liver. And he was pretty much desperate to go and find a liver transplant, considering that his record is really bad. So, Techno decided to go to China. And from there, we see his life is not necessarily going as well, and especially the fact that after his accidents, he became a massive alcoholic, which is why this is called Pear, Cider, and Cigarettes, because those are the things that he loves to do. And, well, he loves to drink, he loves to smoke. So, yeah, he's not doing any favors for his own body. But with all that said, the rest of the mission is to try to get him, like, you know, to get him out of China, to get home, and to get a new liver transplant. And this is all told through the eyes of the guy who made this, the director, the writer, and all that kind of stuff, Robert Valley. And yeah, this is definitely rather unique, you know, considering that this is a documentary. You know, it does give me a brand new perspective on Pear, Cider, and Cigarettes. It is actually really, really interesting how we see just the life of this guy who's like, he's basically an all-out troublemaker, and even after the accidents that happened to him, he's still a troublemaker nonetheless. You know, it's definitely one of the more interesting ones. And another element that I would like to add is the art style. I'm sure that they're going with Robert Valley's signature art style, which, if I may go a little bit onto what he has done, apparently Robert Valley is actually his most well-known works would actually include working on Aeon Flux, and he was the character designer of Tron Uprising. Apparently, it says his latest success as an Annie Award-winning character designer for Disney's Tron animated... wait a minute. Is not really... Oh, I don't know. It's just this article here on Wikipedia is just... I don't know. It just doesn't sound right. Like... Okay, he's an award-winning character designer for the Tron animated series, Aeon Flux, Gorillaz, Beatles rock band, Tron, Fire Breather, and DC Comics Wonder Woman. Oh, DC Comics Wonder Woman clips. And yeah, it actually is true. Like the fact that it did bring up Gorillaz and stuff like Rock Band. Yeah, I could definitely see the art style. It does actually seem pretty familiar, because the best way that I could describe it is that the art style in Pear, Cider, and Cigarettes, it does seem a little bit like a mix of Gorillaz and Grand Theft Auto. Like the art style, not in the game, but at least in the cover art and stuff like that, at least in terms of the use of color. So yeah, one more thing that I would like to mention about Pear, Cider, and Cigarettes is that this has already won an Annie Award for Best Animated Special Production. So this has already gotten an award under its belt. All right, so with that said though, let us move on to the next project, which is Pearl, directed by Patrick Osborne, which for some of you animation fans, that name could actually be familiar, considering that he already won an Oscar for Best Animated Short when he did Feast, which is the animated short about the little dog that loves to eat food that was that aired before Big Hero 6. And what's actually very interesting about Pearl, before I get into the story, is that this is actually a very historical film, actually, in terms of the Oscars, because this is the first time ever that a virtual reality film actually got a nomination at the Oscars. Yes, this is actually a Google Spotlight story that, for the first time ever, it actually got an Oscar nomination, and it already got itself 3 Annie Awards, where it actually won for Best Directing, Best Music, and Best Production Design, all for an animated TV/broadcast production. Now, what is Pearl about, you may ask? Well, apparently this is the story about a girl who lives her life entirely in this old car. Like, she doesn't have a house or anything. She lives in a car where her dad, at one point, well, he was just crossing the country, and he was a street singer. Like, you would see this guy playing on the side of the street on his guitar, and you're supposed to throw money at him. Well, not throw money at him, but just pitch in a buck or two on his trunk. That's basically his life. And then he decided ultimately to go and get a job for the sake of his daughter. And then her daughter would ultimately grow up and, act like any other angsty teen. And she decided to pass on the torch to living the dream as a musician like her father did, and just be a part of a band. And ultimately, throughout the whole time, you hear this song that her dad would play, and then ultimately she would be the one to sing. I don't know, compared to the other ones, this doesn't necessarily stand out as much. I think, just watching it by itself through what I just did, just seeing it as a short, it didn't necessarily do a lot. I'm sure it's probably a lot more effective if you watch it on Google Spotlight stories with virtual reality. Although I don't have any Android products myself. I'm just waiting until Apple can ultimately go into the levels of virtual reality, so I can actually go and do that myself. But yeah, so that's definitely I can imagine this being a tough competitor here among all the nominations. And so finally, this will come to our last, but certainly not least, animated short right over here, and the one that is the most popular that everyone is probably familiar with. It is Piper. And if you don't know what Piper is, it is the animated short that appeared before Finding Dory. Now, the story right over here is that you got this little baby sandpiper, and for the first time, his mother is not feeding him. She's not going to do the job. She wants her baby Piper to be a big boy and actually get the food himself like all the other Pipers are. But after a little slip-up accident, Piper is scared of the water, so it actually requires the help of his newly found crab friend to go and conquer his fear of the water. And I just want to say this right now, I'm not the kind of guy to say this about animated shorts or animated projects or whatever. I would normally never say this. But my god, this freaking short is adorable. I mean, freaking seriously. That little Piper bird is so freaking cute, especially with the little crabby. Oh my god, it's adorable. This thing is just, it makes you happy just watching it. It's such a really feel-good animated short, so much so, in fact, this was the animated short that won for Best Animated Short at the Annie Awards. So, would that reflect upon how it's going to do at the Oscars? That I don't know. But yeah, but one thing I will say about Piper that I really do like, though, is not only is it adorable, but the amount of realism that they put in. Oh my god. They really went down into detail to make this short as realistic as possible. Not necessarily on the birds, but just on the environment. The way that you see every grain of sand, all the water and the foam, and just all that kind of stuff. In a technological matter, this is absolutely phenomenal. But just through the concept and the story alone, it is a lot more simple than any of the other nominations, but it definitely is adorable. But yeah, so basically, this is all the nominations for Best Animated Short, and hopefully you guys do get a good idea of what these are. So, just a little bit of a recap of what you have right over here. You got Blind Vaya, which is the most artistic one. You got Borrowed Time, which is the one that is from Pixar and the most emotional one. You got Pear, Cider, and Cigarettes, which is the longest one, and the one that really goes into detail about a true story. And then you got Pearl, which is coming from someone who has already won an Oscar, so this guy knows what he's doing. And then you got Piper, which is the Pixar one. So those are all your nominations for Best Animated Short, and hopefully this could either interest you guys to go and check it out. Like I said, I found it through iTunes by going to the iTunes store and looking up best animated short. If you guys are willing to spend money on it, like hopefully maybe you would be interested in seeing it, or that, or you are actually well aware of what these animated shorts are, and that hopefully like you do get a good idea of what these are, so when one of them would win, you would understand why. Hey guys, this is AniMat. I just want to remind you guys that this is just a little taste of what you can get with the Animation Podcast. This is not all of it. If you guys want to go and listen to the full episodes of the Animation Podcast, then allow me to show you some of the different ways that you can go. First off, you can actually go on the website that it is hosted on, Filmbook, so you can go directly onto there. You can also go and check out the official Filmbook Podcast YouTube page, so at least you don't have to go away from YouTube and you can listen to the podcast right there. But if you would like to listen on the go, like if you want to listen it to on your phone or on your iPad and all that kind of stuff, then you can listen to it on either iTunes or you can listen to it on Android. So those are all the different options, and if you'd like to have more info, then all you have to do is just check in the description down below. And with all that said, I just want to say thank you guys so much for listening, and until next time, see you later, dudes!